Hello, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. Excited to be here today. I'm always looking for ways to improve my podcast since I'm doing it on my own and, trying to figure it out as I go. And I did this, it's probably AI driven quiz to look at, do I have the best name for my podcast, or is there a better way to do it? And the main idea was that I should have ADHD or women at the very front instead of inspiring first. And I thought, I really don't want to change it, especially since I finally figured out how to say it without tripping over the words. Because in the early episodes, I was always tripping over the words. I feel like anytime I can memorize things, but anytime I'm not just talking stream of consciousness talking, when I'm trying to read something, I totally get stuck and don't say the words right. I learned this as a yoga teacher that when I try to come in and read a quote like people do, or even just share a quote that I know, which was really just from the Pocahontas song about you can't step in the same river twice. And every time I get past that, even though I could sing it, I probably should just sing it. I was trying to teach them that your body's different every time you get on the mat. Every time you wake up in the morning, your body is different than it was yesterday when you woke up in the morning. We're always changing, or at night when we go to bed, our body's different. And anyway, yeah, when I try to read words or have them rehearsed, it's a problem. so, so I'm sticking with inspiring women with ADHD, and I'm counting on you to help me grow. Well, I'll do a little work on that too, but to help me find more listeners. Because someday I'm gonna find out I can't keep spending all this money to try to get my podcast out there, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to spend money on it, but it is quite a bit. So, what am I gonna talk about today? You might already know because you saw the title. That was another thing when I started the podcast, I didn't always know what I was gonna talk about when I came on, and then I'd write the title afterwards, but, I decided to have a little more planning involved. And I do, and this is actually an episode that I started making, a couple weeks ago, started thinking about, and it was a reactionary topic, which means I saw something, and in response to what I saw, I thought, "Oh, I wanna talk about that." But I decided to give myself a little bit of time because, 1, I changed my mind and chose to talk about other things first, but 2, I wanted to make sure I wasn't just doing it from a defensive space because it was a criticism on me that I'm reacting to. So, and that's okay. We can get feedback from people, and not everyone is going to like what we do or how we are or what we decide to do, especially if it's different than a belief that they hold, or if you're just being yourself, you might not be everyone's cup of tea. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's true. So, not everybody's gonna like us, and that's okay. And this person didn't actually say she didn't like me, but in her one sentence or so, it sounded like she thought I was a little off my rocker. So, I decided to read my reviews the other day, and I don't have that many, but I thought, "Oh, I have some reviews." And today I just looked at the reviews again, and I have some really nice reviews. So, thank you so much. Those of you who've reviewed my podcast and said nice things, it really makes me happy. I feel like we're friends. Like, when I first started the podcast and I thought, "How do I do this?" I mean, I can talk by myself for hours, but how do I do it and feel like I'm connecting? And I started out upstairs in a room that had a couch in it. And I decided to just picture a friend or 2 or however many are out there that may listen, and just talk to each person as if I am your ADHD friend and you're mine. So that's what I'm doing. And I it makes me happy to know that not only are people listening, but they come back and listen more, because who knows, my downloads could be somebody who listened and then stopped downloading. I don't know. But one person, and I don't have it quoted because I can't quote things, remember, but one person said, "I can't believe that she hasn't seen a therapist." And then they said, "No wonder," something like, and you know how we always misquote, but something like, "Yeah, now it makes sense the way that she talks, that she hasn't seen a therapist." Like, no wonder she's who knows? I don't know. I don't wanna fill in the blanks. I can picture filling in the blanks, but I don't want to speak for somebody else. And those words are actually wrong. So if you're still listening, whoever said that, maybe you decided you didn't wanna listen to somebody who didn't see a therapist, and that's okay, that's okay. But I just wanted to talk about why therapy is good and why not everyone will seek therapy or go to therapy, and what other options there are. And some of the reasons for some people not seeking therapy could be that they can't afford it. And there are free programs, there are programs that even insurance will pay for with therapy, whether it's individual or group therapy. You'd have to have pretty good insurance, especially now. But years ago, so I have kids who have gone to therapy, and one of my sons who did, the first therapist, insurance didn't really cover very much, but that was okay. We paid for it, and then it got to a point of, "We can't keep paying for this, we don't have enough money." And so I looked to see if I could find group therapy because well, and that's another thing. If you go to college, if you go to school, a public school, they may have therapists available for you. And the college and the university that some of my kids went to, and I don't know about the other ones, they provide free therapy for their students, which was fabulous to find out when my kids were experiencing things like anxiety or depression or things like that, that they could either make an appointment or walk in and be seen that day. And what I found is that sometimes during the year, obviously the therapists that they had couldn't handle the 30, 40,000, I don't know how many thousands, 50,000, 60,000 students. So what they would do is work with the students, see how they could help them, and then refer them to a therapy group. And the therapy groups were free too. And I also found out after one of my children, and I say children, but they were adult children, had graduated from college, that there were still resources through that university to help pay for or get free therapy. They could still come back to campus if they lived there and get therapy. So there are free programs. You could look into that if your college does that, or if you're older like me. I mean, actually, I did go to a university. I graduated. Maybe I could do that, but I haven't sought that, and I don't live near that place. But there are free options sometimes. Look into them, ask questions. With my son, when I started seeing this was after COVID, and when anxiety rose for a lot of people, it was so hard to get a therapist, and I don't want people to think I don't value therapy because I worked really hard to help my child, and this was an adult child, get therapy and called therapist after therapist and found out they had a wait list. Even the place that was expensive that we stopped going to before, they didn't do online versions at the time. I wonder if they do now because that was new COVID, but they didn't do anything online, so we got on a lot of wait lists, and somehow, you talk to enough people, I found out about a group therapy program that had a group for anxiety, it had a group for depression, and a group for drug addiction, which in some ways made me, hesitant. Do I send my child, even though he's an adult child, to a place that has drug therapy? Like, I didn't know, like, as a parent, sometimes you're worried. It's not like I don't know people who are addicted to drugs, but I just, wondered, is that a good environment? Like, what's gonna happen? It was totally fine. Parents have their worries. But it was fabulous, and there's no way we could have afforded it if insurance hadn't paid for it. But insurance paid for all of it, paid 100%. And to be in the program, he had to attend 4 out of 5 days a week from, I think, 9 till 1 o'clock, and go to group therapy, and once a week, they met with a therapist individually, and it was super, super helpful. Eventually, he aged out of it because our insurance, 26 or 27 or whenever, I guess it's till the end of their 26th birthday. Anyway, he wasn't able, and that was about the time we moved, and since then, he's found a therapist on his own. But money may be an issue for a lot of people. Finding the right therapist might be an issue. Finding someone who specializes in what you need might be an issue. And now with online options, that has increased so much since COVID. There are so many options for therapists online. Some of my grandchildren have therapy once a week or life coaches. and with somebody who's able to be age appropriate for children, to work with children with different things that they need help with, and I think it's super, super fabulous. Sometimes finding that match doesn't work out well. I've had that happen with my kids, my friends, people who say I've gone to multiple therapists, and either they've told me I'm not the right fit for them, or I just don't work well with that person, or they're not really helping me. And it's not like it's all about my research, but there are a lot of people who decide not to have therapy because it just doesn't work for them. And there are a lot of people who have therapy and it helps them tremendously. And you can seek therapy. So I would say more people than not are helped for sure. And other people, they find other forms of therapy. And what does that mean? Well, if you think about therapy, what when I used to teach yoga to the firefighters, they called it talk therapy because you go and you talk to somebody. And so if you think of that, what we traditionally think of going to a therapist, having them help you with your ADHD, that would be like psychological therapist, like a doctor who's a counselor, that kind of therapist that you're talking to. And then you might go to, and obviously it could be for ADHD, but a massage therapist. That's another kind of therapist. That's somebody who works with your body, or a physical therapist who helps you post injury or helps you get stronger. And I'm sure there's others. These are just off the top of my head. There are actually yoga therapists. I didn't go to school. We're not supposed to ever say as a yoga teacher that we're a yoga therapist unless we've been certified for it, because it is more extensive for helping somebody with physical things than somebody coming up to you in class and saying, my shoulder hurts or things like that. And I've never internalized anatomy and kinesiology well enough to seek that avenue. Even though I'd like to know about it, I just know I won't retain it, and I don't wanna have that responsibility. The person that I trained with, Mark Stevens, who's written a lot of books about yoga, he understands anatomy and kinesiology amazingly well, but I would listen to him when people would come up and say, "My shoulder hurts, what should I do when I'm doing yoga? Do you have advice for me, especially when I'm doing this pose and something?" He knew poses very well, knew how to help people with the physical, touch if you wanted the assistance, and is that what they call it? Yoga assisted? Yeah, assisted. Anyway, but he would always start with, I am not a doctor, but I am not a doctor. And he's even written a whole book on yoga therapy, and he's probably qualified. I mean, he is qualified to do that. But that's one kind of therapist too. There could be a yoga therapist, there could be all kinds, occupational therapists. But we're talking about talk therapy. But that, just to give you an idea, there are other kinds of people who can help you with your ADHD, whether they are a professional or not. A life coach, I'm a certified life coach. I don't do life coaching. I've done it before, but not like as I'm a life coach. I just have it on my certification because I was curious about it. I like learning these things so I can help people. I do want to offer group coaching or courses where I'm helping you with things with ADHD, but there are specific ADHD coaches that have to learn more. They have to go to school longer to be certified in that specifically, or another life coach might help you with something like organization. It's not ADHD specific, but because of your ADHD, you struggle with organization. So there are different kinds of coaches who can offer help. It's not a therapist, but it's a coach. And from what I understand, a therapist looks at different things than what a life coach does. A life coach is, let's teach you some skills, let's teach you how to take what's happening. I'm not gonna do a very good job of explaining this. I understand it, but to communicate it, you can look up the difference between a life coach and a therapist. But a therapist looks back more in what's happened in your life, what condition you might have, whether you get diagnosed, where a life coach is helping you take something that comes in and have a different response, and using that skill either in a specific way, like for organization, or so you can apply it to a lot of different things. And any of you life coaches are out there, they're saying, she's botching that. The simple way that I look at it is kinda like the now and the forward instead of the looking back and then forward, but there's a lot more to it for sure. But you can look up the difference. That's how I differentiate, but please don't quote me on that of, "Hey, Renee, you're getting that wrong." There is a difference, and you can look that up on your own. But another thing that you can do that offers a ton of help is reading books, finding a book on ADHD, finding a book on the ADHD brain, how it affects women. You might connect, just like with a therapist, you might connect with some of the things they say in that book and say, "Oh my goodness, this is so me." Or you might read, or if you're like me, listen to books now because I can't sit and read a song. My medicine doesn't help me with that. But you might read or listen and find that a lot of it, you're like, "That's not me. That's not me." And then, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it may help you in some way. If things are clicking and they're helping your life get better, then that could be a great alternative. Another alternative could be prayer. A lot of us use prayer and that connection. Some people use yoga at that time to meditate, to find a connection and to find answers. Whether that answer is coming from within because you've quieted yourself, whether that answer is coming from God or your spiritual belief system. I know in yoga that sometimes it's just the the internet of the mind, as Eric Schiffman says. We have the answers, but we have muddied the waters so much that we can't tune into that. And you may be able to find answers on your own or through prayer that you wouldn't otherwise. And medication, many of you might be taking medication. For me, I am. A lot of people choose not to be medicated or try it and don't like the side effects. So there's so many things that we have that can or may help us with our ADHD, supplements, diet changes, exercise, so many things. But I think what happens a lot of times is, well, a few things is that we see. It used to be blog articles, now it might be a TikTok or an Instagram reel or a YouTube video or something, or might hear a podcast, right, where they say, "This is the answer if you just did this. That is the answer if you just did that." And it might be the answer. It might be the answer for you. That doesn't mean it's the answer for everyone. And your job is to find that answer for you, find that answer for your children, but maybe not assume you might know that this other person would be way better off if they just did what you did, because it doesn't always work for everyone. And when I mention people, people in your life can be therapists. Who else could you talk to? If you have a talk therapist, you have a professional therapist, do you have any people in your life who you feel like after you talk to them, like, "Oh, that was a nice therapy session. Thank you for that." You were able to talk to a friend, talk to a relative, your mom, your sister. I don't have sisters, but I still have my mom. I have cousins. I have a cajillion cousins, and I have a lot of adopted sisters, which I just mean because I have 4 brothers and no sisters. I've decided that a lot of my friends are my sister and let them know they can have that role. I'll be that for them and they can be that for me. And I can be that for you. I can support you in some way if you don't feel like you have a sister, or some people don't have a mom, whether she's not alive anymore or they don't have somebody that they can go to that can help them with things like this. There are times that you talk to people and want to have a conversation about it, and you walk away feeling like, I don't feel understood. I feel like they don't get it. That'd be like, that's not a good therapist for you. That's not your person you're gonna go back to. And other people that you think of to reach out to talk to, especially if you have friends who have ADHD or a relative and you can talk to about it can be really helpful. It can be helpful to commiserate, but even people without, I mean, I have a lot of people in my life who don't have ADHD, and it's not like I share everything with them about it. Honestly, I don't know that they're as interested in it as some people who do, but I there are some people in my life who have a daughter with ADHD, and they're asking me questions, and I share things with them of what I do, what's helped me, what I've learned about ADHD, and that can be helpful. So we can be resources for each other. We can help each other through things. We can do all kinds of learning online. There are so many websites. I think, honestly, that was one of my goals with my website, and now that I've revamped it for the 3rd time. It started out blue, then it was pink, and I used to joke that it was like Sleeping Beauty, and the little princesses, pink, blue, pink, blue. Well, there's Flora, Fawn, and Merriweather. Whoever's the one in green, that's where I landed. So my website's green. But one of my things that I wanted to do is not have a blog like, oh, here's the best recipe, or I'm going to write all these great articles. I wanted to take the information that I've gathered, especially the ones that have bullet point information, like the difference between OCD and OCPD, and how that might affect you if you have ADHD, or I had one episode that I find is fascinating, but to listen to it and then later be able to make sense of it, I need to see things. Hearing things, I love hearing things. I can pay attention more, I can listen longer, I can read a whole book, read in quotes, a whole book if I'm listening, but I need to write it down if I wanna remember it. And even listening to an audiobook, the last one that I listened to was Winter Garden or The Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna? I think it's Winter Garden. And, every once in a while, I'd hear a quote or there's something I wanted to remember, and I'd run and write it down because I wouldn't remember it otherwise. But as far as information goes, one episode I had was about all the psychological disorders and how there are sets and subsets and how they differentiate anxiety disorders, personality disorders, neurodevelopmental disorders. Um, anyway, there's a lot of, and obviously I can't remember them all right now, but what I can do is take my podcast and I can have AI help me make the bullet points of that so I remember and I don't have them do the whole, like a whole transcript or anything. But then I can take my English major experience and turn that into a readable, not AI, a readable, they've told me what I talked about and I can make it presentable for you because I cannot stand, even though I do it to find information for this website, for this podcast, I cannot stand to go onto a web page, onto some website and have 1,000 ads come up and not even be able to know what I'm looking at. Drives me nuts. If you have if you have this sensitivity, overstimulation, and you're already trying to sort information with executive dysfunction, and you're scrolling through and you're thinking, oh, where is this? I love like on a recipe that'll say jump to recipe. I'm like, yay, they should do that with every information. Jump to the bullet points, jump to, like send the ads away. And if you do ad blocker, what it'll tell you, you can't look at it unless disable your ad blocker. So I wanna have that information handy for you so that you can look at it without the ads, without trying to figure out what's going on, without too much fluff or without an AI written article. So that's my goal. I actually have some written. I don't know if they're on my new website right or not. Actually, I haven't. No, since I turned it to green, I didn't put them in there, but I will. I can copy and paste them, get them in there. But yeah, if you know a good website that gives you information without ads, then tell me about it because I'd love to have that as a resource. I want to have a resource section in my website where you can go there if you have questions about RSD or OCPD or even just what are the symptoms for ADHD of each type. I actually made up a PDF or a Google Drive doc that you can have in your Google and some different things available for you so you can find it easier because it will drive me nuts to look at websites like that or a pop-up. I've tried to make it on my website where you only get a pop-up if you ask for it. Like if you're gonna sign up for something, then there might be a pop-up form. But when it tells me, if you ever see a pop-up on my website that you didn't ask for, let me know. Because the auto setting is to pop up on opening or pop up on exit intent. And I say, no, no, only when you click on it. So anyway, yeah. Pop-ups, because what are they? They're a distraction. They're they're about to drive us crazy. So, what else could be a reason why you don't get therapy? And maybe these are things, maybe you really want to get therapy, and I mean talk therapy. Maybe you really want to get therapy, but you don't have time. You don't have time. That's one thing I thought of. I think I mentioned not ever having therapy. I don't know if I said didn't ever have therapy, but maybe I did. But now it's all out there loud and proud, right? But when I was talking to my psychiatrist, is that what it's called? No, wait, psychiatrist, doctor, right? Behavior health specialist. He's a psychiatrist. Type into a psychiatrist. I just haven't been to a therapist. Anyway, when I went to him, he said, "How's your medicine helping you?" And I said, "Well, it helps with this, but it hasn't helped with that. And I was hoping it would help with letting me sit down and read a book, but not really." And blah, 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 blah. And I'd gotten to a point where I found one that didn't have side effects, that didn't like make me all dizzy or didn't make me a little bit cranky, that everyone's sending me an email. I was really cranky about emails one time and I thought, oh, that was one of the side effects was anger, getting angry easily or getting too tired early in the day, like having such a crash from my medicine. So I found that the Ritalin helps me if I take it 3 times a day. Remembering to take it 3 times doesn't always happen, but I don't like setting alarms for it all the time. So usually when I get really hungry or if I start to get tired, then I know, but sometimes I'm fine and I just take it twice a day. But anyway, back to the medicine. I was telling him that there were still some other things I needed help with. And so he said, "Well, then maybe you should see a life coach." And I remember thinking, um, "Okay, well, no." And mostly because I said, "I don't have time for that." Just like my primary care doctor told me, that if I wanted to because I was starting to have some carpal tunnel syndrome and symptoms together, and she said, "You could see an occupational therapist." And I thought, "Yeah, it's not happening." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then she started typing it into the computer, like, so she could set it up, and then she said, "Do you even want to?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Okay." I said, "I don't have time for that." And I don't. I mean, if I had to, I would, but I don't have to. I can look up resources. I can look up exercises. I can look up how to tape my hand with KT tape. I'm super, super resourceful. So sometimes you can use your own talents to help you find information. Or if you don't have time and you could do something online, you can find alternatives. Another reason, and I'm just saying this in case you can relate to this, another reason that I said, no, 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 to the life coach wasn't because I don't believe in life coaches, just like it's not that I don't believe in therapy. I just don't think it's a good match for me. And this is one of the one things. Okay, if you don't have enough time and if you have to find one that you need to connect with in a good way for it to be effective, at least that's what I feel like for me. And I think that when we're old enough, we can make that choice, right? Maybe when we're younger, we might need help making choices like that. But if you've lived long enough and you thought, I've developed a lot of systems, methods, and things that help, a lot of thought processes, a lot of mindset shifts. I use mindfulness. I've found all these techniques that help me. My belief is because my brain is an ADHD brain, they won't help 100% of the time. They might not even help 80% of the time. No, yeah, maybe it's 79. Who knows what it is? I was trying to think, what was I saying? I got lost in my own thought. But if they help that much, they're helping me. And I'm good with that. Or if I feel like I need to talk to somebody and have somebody give me direction or feedback. I have so many people in my life who can do that. Not everybody does. So that's the choice that I've made. But there's also the thing that if you're a people pleaser, and yes, I could find a therapist or someone who helps me with people pleasing, but if you're a people pleaser, that can get in the way of you doing well with somebody in that situation. And I've talked to other people about this too, where they don't actually they have a hard time being honest in their answers to the therapist or life coach that they're working with for a host of reasons. It could be being embarrassed or ashamed or just not even really remembering everything, or it could just be the people-pleasing thing of, I wanna give the kinda answer that they're looking for. And on paper, that doesn't sound like a good idea, but in the moment, you might be doing that. That's what I've done. I have worked with a life coach twice, and I knew each one of them, which I found was better actually because I knew I could work with them. But and this was on Zoom, so it didn't take up too much time of my life. And each time, even in the goals that I was setting, okay, I take that back. I worked with a life coach 3 times, and one of them was just 1 session, and she helped me a ton. She actually came over and helped me organize drawers and deal with clutter, and she taught me a lot. And that was super helpful because it was very active. We didn't talk, we talked while we worked, while she when we cleaned out pen drawers. I had 2 pen drawers, pens, colored pencils, all those things, staplers. Oh my gosh, it was a lot. You wouldn't think you would need help with it, but when you have 2 big drawers in your kitchen with all that you do, oh my goodness, and a couple Tupperware-y, Rubbermaid-y kinda things full of, colored pencils, crayons, whatever. Anyway, she helped me organize that. That was helpful because it was very active, and I learned by her example, and because that was more of a co-working thing or a body doubling thing, although it wasn't just body doubling, like she was actually helping me with it, and I had to go at her speed, and it's helped me ever since. The other ones where I sat and talked about what to do and then followed up, it didn't help me do the things. I set goals that I thought looked good on paper, that I thought sounded good to them. They even sounded good to me. I didn't do them. I tried, but it wasn't helpful to get me to do them. And part of it was because I didn't one of the times, it was more of a, I don't know, what can you do every day to feel happier? And I don't even know the goal was happier. It was like calmer. And we both were yoga teachers. So it's like we already had yoga in our lives. So I'm like, I'm going to step outside every day and appreciate nature. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I mean, I would go outside real quick, but, and the other one was to build my website a long time ago before the blue one, then the pink one. And then this was like 2 or 3 years. I hit a wall, and the overwhelm, the stuck, the dread, that I don't get it, I'm not learning very well. Yeah, I set a time frame, I followed up with her, I wasn't doing it, and I found that the biggest issue for me was that my people pleasing, I wasn't telling the truth of what my goals really were. I didn't really have the right person to help me with it because I wasn't learning a technique, or a skill to help me get there. I was learning more the organization to set up a goal, and then I was supposed to go and do it, and I didn't get help along the way. And that did teach me something because since then, and especially since I've learned about ADHD, I was able to learn where the holes were. So it was beneficial. It just didn't help me reach that goal for like 4 more years. So I have found that accountability for me is better than anything. And I've worked with different kinds of coaches. I guess I have. I guess when I say life coach, like I've taken courses. I do better with courses where I have other people doing it at the same time. It's kind of group coaching, but at the same time, it's not everybody's talking. Not every I don't know if you've done any kind of group coaching or courses where there are live sessions and you can ask questions, you can follow up. You can follow up through email, you can report your progress. But when I'm just on my own, in between, or whatever, unless there's a deadline, I'm in trouble. Unless I have people who are doing it along with me. So anyway, that's me. But you might have similar things where you learn from what didn't work, what you would need if you did need help. Like, I'm taking medication, but it's not enough to help me with these other things. So what do I need with those things? What can I do to keep me from bumping into tables or who knows what? My husband asked me today because I was wearing a dress why I had so many bruises on this leg. And that actually was a cut too. I said, "You know that little table that I set up?" I set up it's actually a stool, it's a wooden stool, but I set it up because we watch movies or Survivor, or we watch The Traders. I don't know if you watch that. We watch it with a projector, but I take my laptop and put it there on that stool so it goes up to the projector up high. And because we used to have a table there and I didn't like moving it means by a back door. It can't really be something. Anyway, I ran into it a lot. And then I said, "Oh, and then also that little table in the laundry room and also the little." So even though 80% of the time or 99% of the time I don't run into it, the one time I do, it gives me a cut and a bruise, and then I wear a longer skirt, so so yeah, there are always gonna be those slip-throughs, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that we failed. It doesn't mean we need more help with it. Maybe it means we need more help with it. But I feel like my microphone's not up high enough over there for YouTube. Last week, when I made my episode, I apologized on YouTube, but those of you may have noticed that partway through, well, you probably saw it or you heard on audio too, but I went to reach for something and knocked over the webcam and then was yelling like, "Oh," and stuff. So I had to cut that part of it out. But when I came back on, it also unhooked the microphone for the YouTube, so it was just using my MacBook for the microphone. After that, it was much quieter, and I'm sure everyone lived through it. But in a perfectionistic world, that would have been nice if that worked, huh? Yeah. Okay, so do you wanna see the notes from ChatGPT? Because I gave them my ideas for this episode. Oh my goodness, they gave me so many ideas, asking for alternatives and what ADHD experts say. And they said as a title, Why Therapy Isn't for Everyone. Um, that therapy can totally help, but it may not be sufficient or ideal for everyone. And sufficient means just like with medication, you might need medication and some methods and some new systems and a daily routine and some advice and a book to read. And and there are different kinds of therapy. I know someone I know, I'm going to be discreet here, who has borderline personality disorder. She went to multiple therapists before she found someone who could help her. And sometimes you have to find out like what area do you specialize in? And an ADHD coach might do might help you more than a therapist who doesn't specialize in ADHD. Um, Here's another thing that ChatGPT told me. Therapy may not be always be helpful to ADHD needs. There are therapies like CBT that can actually cause problems if they aren't adapted specifically for ADHD or delivered in a way that fits that person. So things need to be very individualized. And if you know anyone with ADHD, and I know quite a few people, when it runs in families, you end up knowing quite a few, and I have a lot of friends too, but it's interesting that one thing that might be really hard for me isn't a problem for them, and vice versa. So, finding a therapist who understands ADHD may be different. That may help one person, but may not help you. So, you really have to find that the the person that can help you. Not saying you shouldn't try. I don't want this to sound like a don't try, don't try. You can totally try. You need to find the right fit. Someone who fits your personality, somebody that you're willing to be honest with, someone that maybe can help you with your people pleasing, and someone who understands ADHD specifically. I'm pretty picky about things, and even with doctors, well, even like the psychiatrist that I went to, him learning about ADHD in med school and living it are two different things. So when I talk to him about um, overwhelm or having a hard time getting yourself to do things or time management being late or whatever. He said, "Well, that's just procrastination." And I thought, "You really didn't just say that, did you?" Did you really study ADHD? It is not just procrastination. I got a little defensive. I didn't get mad. Like I was still calm, but I just said, "Well, actually, blah, blah, blah." Anyway, so yeah. I any of you who have asthma, severe asthma, and I'm sure there's a lot of other health issues that are similar to this, that when I go to a doctor who isn't a pulmonologist, I would say pulmonologists are the exceptions, and so here's finding someone who totally specializes in lung problems, right? He understands it in a great way and understands the need to test and has the equipment to test what I'm really going through when I say my asthma's bad. I don't know I'm 61. I've had severe asthma since I was a teenager. I don't know any doctor who's not one of the 3 pulmonologists I've been to in my life who actually was able to measure my asthma or understand what I was going through unless my oxygen level was really low. One time I went in, it was in the low 70s. Or if there was wheezing, and the doctor I recently went to said, "Well, I don't hear any wheezing," and I said, "I don't think I" did I say this last week? Because it was just last week. I said, "I don't know if I've actually wheezed, like, in 20 years, 15, 20. I mean, it may even be 30 years. I haven't wheezed in a really long time, and I've had severe, severe asthma. So wheezing, like, the things that they listen for, I feel like if they had lived it, they would know that, like, they wouldn't say that, and they would understand it better. I shouldn't be so critical. But it makes me happy, like, as a parent, I have 2 children now, 3 actually. My one of my sons, his asthma's developed as an adult, but 2 of my children who had it since they were very, very young. I was so grateful that I had gone through it because I can understand, and if you have children with ADHD and you see what they're going through, you are gonna understand it so much better. Hopefully, you're grateful too. Maybe sad that you passed it along to him, but I'm grateful that you can help him with it. But having somebody if there are therapists I know there are ADHD coaches who have ADHD, and that could be really helpful too. I'm not trying to discount anyone who hasn't had it, but there is something to having lived it. Although, I'll go back to there are things with my ADHD that my daughter-in-law doesn't experience or my son doesn't. But there are other things I can totally spot in him, and I say, "Do you know about time blindness? Have you heard of it?" He goes, "Oh my goodness, do you have that? That's a big part of your ADHD." And I told him about it. I'll have to tell him he's probably gonna get married next year. I have to tell his wife to be if that anyway, side note there. Okay. Okay, fit with therapist matters, going back to little suggestion, and when I ask ChatGPT, I always ask him for resources with links, so I know this isn't just, like, gathered from a not reputable source. Okay, therapy requires time, consistency, and access. Not everyone has availability of providers, not everybody can get there, not everyone has enough time to fit that in their life. You might have a hard time keeping your appointments, remembering your appointments, being there on time, not getting it canceled. Real life constraints. Um, and then there are some people who want a different approach. So coaching, like I said, has a different approach. It's more of a, what are we trying to accomplish? Let's try to reach that solution. And it emphasizes what you can do, your strengths and things more than maybe the past or something, but with honestly, I haven't had ADHD therapy, and I would think that I am helped by looking in the past for ADHD and what I've done before, but really, I think with ADHD, especially when as women, when we experiences kinda leaps and bound changes, perimenopause, menopause, there's a lot about perimenopause and ADHD and how it increases the symptoms. When I look at mine, I had to look up when perimenopause happens because I don't know that I really had symptoms with it. And when I first started having more forgetfulness, can't keep track of stuff, I've always had a problem with managing paperwork. But it says it's in the mid to late 40s. I started having my increase in ADHD symptoms, which I didn't know that's why it was happening, when I was 35. I don't think I was experiencing perimenopause then, although my metabolism changed, but that was right after I had my 5th baby. So, obviously, there were some hormonal changes, but same with when I had my first 4 babies. So, um, but yeah. So, sometimes it's helpful to know, like, "Oh, because of perimenopause, I'm experiencing a shift in my ADHD." Sometimes you don't even need to know the reason, you just know, "I'm experiencing a shift. What do I do?" Things are harder than they used to be. I used to be able to read books, now I can't. What's the difference? Um, but yeah, a life coach might be a better fit for you. And, ba, 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 ba. So yeah, evidence-based alternatives that can be helpful, ADHD coaches, online courses, accountability groups, accountability with your friend. Look at people in your life who are your resources if they're available to you. And then, think about what you need help with. I'm sure you already know. You can have structured learning. And I know it's hard with ADHD. You can think, when do I have time to take these courses? When do I have time to do that? I signed up for a yoga anatomy course that I'm so glad I bought. I bought it, and it wasn't the first time that they were running it. It was with Judith Lassiter, if you haven't heard of her. She is I'm guessing she's in her 70s, she could be older, but she used to teach yoga in San Francisco, and she started Yoga Journal, the magazine, when it was actually a yoga magazine, and now it's more of a website, and I think people say it's more like a people magazine for yoga. Like it's lost its authenticity, but I haven't bought it, so I'm just telling you what people say. But anyway, Judith Lassiter, she is fabulous if you're a yoga teacher, if you wanna learn about I don't know, anything really. Yoga myths. She has a lot of books too. I've read her books, or I've looked at her books. I've read I've read parts of her books. I haven't said I've read a whole book. But anyway, the first course that I bought from her, maybe it was the second, was her big one that was the most expensive of all the ones I've seen. And it was on yoga anatomy. And I bought it. And each month, I think, or each week or every other week, we were going to get to take a live class with her that followed along with the course and what we were reading. Did I do any of it? No, no. For like 3 or 4 months, I didn't do any of it. I looked at it, but I didn't do any of it. I spent all this money. And then I wrote and said, can I jump in on the next one? And they said no. And I found out that the course that I bought, you only had access to the course materials, the online modules and everything. I think it was like for 6 months. It could have been a year. But whatever it was, I didn't do it, and I waited till the end. So they said, "No, those live classes are just for those people, but you can buy lifetime access to the course." So I did because I didn't have enough time to fix it, and it cost me hundreds of dollars. But I'm really glad I did because they don't offer lifetime access anymore, and the course is far more expensive. So I did complete the course. I got certified in it, and I'm so grateful because I've learned a ton from her. And the next time she offered it, they did allow you to join in live, so I did just for fun, and I joined her yoga myths course too, but anyway, okay. So back to other courses, skills, training, education. Oh, this is the one that I love because I can teach you this. For Mindfulness Monday. This episode that I'm recording right now might come out on Monday, and I'll do another mindfulness, but mindfulness, breathing, and nervous system work can help. And here's where my big belief comes in, is that when you have ADHD, your brain is already going to function differently. It can still function at its best or even at its better. But when you are distracted, when you are stressed, when you are overstimulated, and all those things can happen in the wild, like in front of other people or in your family or whatever. And so learning that mindfulness, learning the breath work, learning all those things to calm down your nervous system can help you day to day. Like, I just need this as a person so I can sleep, but it can also help you, like, whatever you learn from that can help you in the moment because you can click with that. Your brain will think, what's going on right now? What can I do to feel calmer? Because that will help you not be so bumbly and drop things in public and spill apple juice under the shopping cart. And all the things that happen. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, my life. Okay. Reading, self-directed learning. You can learn on your own. Workbooks, journaling, reading, listening, and then community, accountability, support groups. There are Facebook groups, Reddit. I love reading on Reddit. Threads is my new favorite, but I haven't been on as much this last week as I was the 2 weeks before. But you feel like you find your people, and sometimes you find like you don't find your people, even though they have ADHD. You might find like they are happier than I am with ADHD, or they feel ripped off with ADHD and I don't. I feel glad that I know and can put the pieces together, and it might be a combination. And sometimes we learn from other people, like even if they're different. So, finding those groups, whether they're distant groups like Reddit, can be helpful. And just to go and read 357 comments or whatever it is about other people who can't stand to take a shower. It's like, it's really exciting. Just knowing that can be supportive, like I'm not the only one who's just like, oh, I don't want to take a shower today. I don't want to wash my face. I don't want to, whatever it is. Um, yeah, therapy may be amazing. It probably is. I can't speak from my own personal, but I can speak for other people in my life who benefited greatly from therapy and that it's helped them through significant trials and given them tools that they need. Um, mm, 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 mm. Oh, okay. This is another thing that Chat GPT told me. How people pleasing can make therapy hard. Hmm. Aren't a lot of studies on this, they say, but psychological literature consistently shows that the effectiveness of therapy depends on honesty, uh-oh, self-expression, are you able to share, and the alliance, the connection that you have with that person. So people pleasers may avoid disagreeing with your therapist. Like if they're asking you to do something, I know someone I know had to do a tapping therapy. It wasn't for ADHD, but it was for a different disorder. They had to do a tapping therapy. And at first they liked it, but then they were super annoyed by it and hated it every time the therapist had to do it and would disagree, but didn't say, I don't want to ever do this again. Can you come up with something else? And eventually stopped going to that therapist. Here's another thing. Yep, this is me. They may say what they think is expected. That's them raising my hand, at least when I did the life coaching. And they may not bring up real struggles. Or if you're distracted, you may not think of it in that moment. Like maybe you plan on going in. You could always have a list with you. I try to do that when I go to the doctor. Although the last time I think I left the post-it in the car. But, have a list of things that you're going to say. And I actually did remember to say them without my post-it. But anyway, and they say that's pretty much how it is for everyone. But for me, yeah, I could see that in myself. Okay, okay, okay. I think that's it for now. If you are seeing a therapist, I'd love to hear how it's helping you. If you aren't and want to seek therapy, there are people that can help you, or life coaches, or a lot of courses, and hopefully I'll have some for you soon. I have one that I ran before on focus, finding your way to focus, emphasizing the your way to focus, that I need to revamp it. Because when you run a class and then you see what you have in mind and how the people take it and what they do with it, I thought, wow, I need to back up and I need to understand that what I thought, like they all did really well with the course, but there were a lot of things that I thought they knew that they didn't know and that I need to teach within it. So I need to add that to it. But I love to run a course with you and check in. Because the way that I want to do it is anytime you take a course with me, whether it's a live course or it's what they call evergreen, you can find it anytime. I want you to check in with me and let me know how you're doing with it. What's helping you, what's not, and you can tell me the truth. You don't have to do people pleasing. You don't have to do that. Okay. Because I did have people who say, like, "This is great that you're sending me these emails, but I actually haven't done any of it." It's like, I'm glad you're honest because I've been there, done that. Been there, done that. It cost me a lot of money. But okay. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for being here. And gosh, actually, there's like 5 million more things that ChatGPT told me that I haven't um, said. But yeah, therapy is definitely a skilled set. It's evidence based. It can help a ton of people. I want to end with that, okay? It saves lives. It helps people have tools that they wouldn't have otherwise. It helps them figure out things that they wouldn't have known otherwise. And some people thrive with it, and some people don't. So find out if talk therapy is the best for you. If you're having things that are, like, nervous system specific, I know with the firefighters, they found that talk therapy, even though it is offered to the firefighters and a lot of them use it, it isn't sufficient to help them with, avoiding heart disease, heart attacks, depression, all the things from what they experience in life. It doesn't prevent them from going there or stop them from going there because of all that they see in their work. And whatever you've gone through in your life, you might find therapy to be really helpful, but you might need something to supplement it. For them, that's why we had this yoga program, is it helped them understand the nervous system and how to calm it down and how to find ways to process the emotions that came in and the things that were affecting them in such a way that they was causing health problems and causing too much stress in their bodies and to be in that fight or flight mode for far too long. Okay. I guess that's it for real this time. Thank you so much. I'm going to teach a yoga class pretty soon. I didn't even have my alarm go off. I should turn it off just in case it makes noise because it does that every time when I'm this close. I have 18 minutes. Let's see, what time did I set it for? Going to go off in 2 minutes. Just turned it off. So I'm my own alarm clock. I can remember sometimes, and you might be able to do too. But thank you for being here. You should get this on Monday. Happy Monday to you in the last week of March, is it? Close to it. And I'll try to get another Mindful Monday nervous system support regulation. I want to keep teaching those things to you because those are things that I've learned so much in all my years of teaching yoga, and I think they could really benefit you. And you can see what does and what doesn't, and I'll be fine with whatever. Thank you so much. I will be back. Bye.
Help other women find this show. Rate, review, share with someone you know. Help other women find my show. Rate, review, share with someone you know. Hurry before you forget.